All right, good afternoon. Thanks everyone for joining us here today. My name is Mike Allison. I'm a professor of political science and chair of the department here. Um, I'm going to talk to you a little bit this afternoon just about the political science program. I think for many of us here, we're really interested in helping to prepare our students and our graduates to speak, write, and communicate effectively um, in all the different technologies or medium that we use in the 21st century to talk about politics, to engage with politics, to be professionals in their field of study, professionals in their careers, whether they go on to law, to um, to work in government, to work in the non-private sector, or even to work in the private sector. We want students to be experts in the content of their field, as well as to be able to communicate that information effectively to diverse audiences, right? Through writing, through video, through Twitter, through Instagram, right? That's what we really encourage our students and graduates to be like, but also, just to be, good citizens, to have an understanding of the rights and responsibilities that we have as citizens of the United States and of the world. Right? So I thought I'd talk a little bit today, more specifically for about 10 minutes or so, some of the key characteristics or strengths of our department at the University of Scranton. All right, so one thing we do is introduce our students to all the different subfields of political science. We require our students to get a sense of what US politics is all about at the national level, as well as the state and local level. We require students to get an introduction to comparative politics, which is a study of the politics really of other countries, as well as international relations, which is the relationship among countries in the international system. Okay. Beyond that, we also want our students to get a sense of, perhaps a little bit of a background in political theory that talks about like how should politics be organized, right? Who should the government represent? What does representation mean? As well as a more sophisticated understanding of political science research methods, which moves more in the direction of not maybe how should political science or how should politics work, but how it actually works in practice. It's a lot more of the focus on empirical politics and studying, public opinion and what causes shifts in public opinion. What are the effects of different policies that government implements at the state, local, and national levels, as well as the consequences of the implementation of those policies, right? So it's more in the field of public administration, not just like how laws are passed, but what happens when they're implemented, right? And then for many of our students, perhaps a third are usually interested in going on to law school. And so we provide a number of courses that prepare our students to know more about the law, but more about the intersection of politics and the law. Right? So we have a couple of courses on constitutional law, as well as the courts. In addition, we generally want our students also to find out what they're passionate about. What are they interested in studying? And so if we look at what our students had researched a year ago, we see that a number of our students, chose topics related to gun control, the school to prison pipeline, Black Lives Matters, the impact of Supreme Court decisions on public opinion, whether or not the court is actually following what the public thinks, or whether or not the public changes its views on controversial issues based upon the rulings of the Supreme Court, right? But another group of students are really interested more in international politics. And so they've chosen to research issues related to separatist movements in Scotland, Spain, and other parts of the world, civil wars in Africa, also rebel group recruitment strategy, right? Like why do certain people join insurgent movements and others stay on the sidelines or others fight against them? If our students really, and one of our strengths is to look at European politics. So our students have looked at why The British voters supported Brexit and continue to support Brexit today, as well as what are the consequences for the European Union. And then, another field that really covers both domestic politics and international politics is U.S. foreign policy. So we always have students who are interested in understanding, the causes of U.S. foreign policy as well as the consequences. Right. So we really, we want our students to get a broad foundation of political science so they can engage in conversations at the state, local, and national level. But in both upper division classes and in their own individual research, we want students to really, pursue the topics that interest them. And then there's a lot that we do outside of the classroom. Right here, we see some of the examples where we've had a couple alumni come back to campus and lead a simulation, a counterterrorism simulation. Two of our alums work for the National Counterterrorism Center in DC, and they came back and worked with students on how to respond to a terrorist attack. We've also had students, graduates, come back and talk about their careers in working with the FBI, nonprofit organizations, private sector, and for lobbying organizations down in Washington, DC. We've had individuals, we have local congressmen who come to campus and speak rather frequently. It's one of the benefits of having a political science program here in Scranton, where we are only a couple of blocks away from a number of local, state, and national government officials. It's great because we can have them on campus, but it's also an opportunity for our students to get out into the community, whether through internships or just dropping in to meet with political officials. Every few years as well, one of our graduates is high up at C-SPAN, so they've been on campus every election. And so our students have taken a tour of the C-SPAN bus, and they've been showcased on some of the C-SPAN social media outlets. So it's great for our students to have people come to campus and to engage them. Right? But we also take our students out on the road. Right? And last year, we traveled down to Washington, D.C. for a networking meeting with alumni who work in government, who work in the nonprofit sector, private businesses. And they're not just from the political science program, but there's a large number of graduates and alumni down in Washington, D.C. who simply want to meet with students. It's a great opportunity. We've also had students every year, they go down to Washington, D.C. in November as well to participate in the European Union simulation, which is a course that we offer here at the university. Dr. Van Dyke teaches it, and she brings students down to compete in an inter-university competition where our students play the roles of a country and individual members of parliament of that country and compete against other schools. It tends to be one of the most remembered courses for all of our graduates. It's one of the defining academic experiences of their time here at the University of Scranton. And so they compete, but they also visit an embassy while they're down there and get a briefing. Here, I believe it's the Danish embassy, who our students represented 2 years ago, and they had a presentation by members of the embassy there. And then we also, have taken our students to Harrisburg, so the capital of Pennsylvania, to meet with members of Governor Wolf's administration. We've also met with State Senator John Blake, who gave us a tour of the legislature down in Harrisburg, and alumni who work both in government and outside of government, lawyers and non-lawyers, who've had the opportunity to speak with our students. Right, and then finally, the last one, the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, is a travel course that Father Sweeney leads every year to Ireland. Right, so we want our students to learn in class, but also outside of class to learn about the world, but to also make contacts and connections with alumni from political science and other areas of the department or other areas of the university that can help them pursue their career goals. Right, and so we I mentioned a little bit before, but the University of Scranton's ideally situated, as our offices are about 2 blocks from a number of really interesting internship sites. We have the Middle District of the federal court system is located here in Scranton, so the federal courts. So we have our students who are interning with judges, as well as federal prosecutors. We also have a city hall, city council. So our students are interning with the mayor, local council, state senators. Senator Casey is local. We also have students who are interning with Lackawanna Pro Bono and an entity on campus, which is the Institute for Public Policy and Research, that helps students who are more interested in careers in public policy and gaining the skills needed to analyze public policy at the state and the local level here in Pennsylvania. Other students are taking their research on the road. Here's one of our graduates, Kylie Mignot, who presented her research at the Political Science, the Pennsylvania Political Science Association annual meeting 2 years ago, where she presented her research in front of an audience of students and faculty from other universities across the state. Right, so we're really encouraging our students to do research by themselves, but also with faculty. We're encouraging our students, again, to study abroad. We have opportunities. Here's Caitlin Memon, who studied in England last year. She had a terrific time, and it was one, to learn about the English government, but also to learn from all the other students who are from around the world who are studying in England at the time. So Caitlin learned as much about England as she did about the United States simply by learning, speaking with other students, speaking with professors. And so we really encourage students to study abroad, whether it's through our 1-week course led by Father Sweeney to Ireland, or to take a semester away if possible. And then finally, students are also engaged in a little bit atypical research, in that they've worked with me on asylum cases for people who are fleeing violence in El Salvador and Guatemala. That we put together a country conditions report that helped put into context the environment in which people are fleeing, and use them and submit them to various courts around the country. So we have a lot of opportunities for students to work on them by themselves on research, as well as with professors. And then finally, there's a number of other opportunities across the university where our students get engaged. It's a little bit, in the first one, you can see a little bit about the college Democrats and college Republicans that get together every year and do debate watch parties, as well as voter registration drives. We have students who travel down to the Ignatian Family Teach-In for Justice in Washington, D.C., which allows our students to get a sense of how students across the Jesuit network are engaging in political issues in their own communities, as well as nationally and globally. We also have a mock trial club that many of our students participate in. They've been competing in competitions across the state as well as New York, and they've been really successful. It's a great opportunity for our students to improve their understanding of the law, as well as their public speaking skills. And then we have Matt Coughlin down here, who just graduated. He was student body president, but here he is giving a talk to city council. Matt right now is pursuing his law degree up at Boston College. We have a number of programs set up, 3+3 programs, that allow our students to complete 3 years of coursework here at the university, and then go on to law school for another 3 years at Villanova, Boston College, Duquesne, and Penn State. This allows our students to shave off 1 year of their schooling experience to complete both an undergraduate degree and a graduate degree. Right? And so it's a great opportunity for our students. But we're also engaged in this bursting our political bubbles, which really helps our students in political science, as well as across the university, to engage in conversations, right, about really controversial issues, right, to share their experiences, their understanding of politics, and to hear from others, right? It's one thing to get into a nice or heated debate about politics, but sometimes it's just as good to really listen, right, to understand where people are coming from, and for you to share your perspectives and why, not at the end of the day really to convince anyone who is right and who is wrong, but simply to share what our experiences have been and why we think that way in a less confrontational environment. All right, so I hope that gives you a good understanding of the Department of Political Science, right? Our curriculum, as well as extracurricular opportunities. And if you have any questions, I'd love to, field them right now. And we also have Grace Sechak, who's here, who's a sophomore political science major from Scranton, who's happy to talk or to answer some questions as well. Sure. I think we have the first question from Samal. We do have a political science minor. It's 6 courses in political science, which includes the introductory two U.S. politics courses, as well as any other 4 courses of your interest. It gives students who are more interested maybe in international politics to pursue courses globally, or if you're more interested in state and local politics or national politics, to focus on the US. That's a great question. What do political science majors pursue outside of law? All right. Again, as I mentioned, about a third of our students will be interested in going to law school. And often at the end of the 4 years, a third of our students will go to law school, but not always the ones who are really interested in the first place in going. But that leaves another 2/3 of our graduates in other career areas. And so we have a large number of them who work in nonprofits for both religious-based and non-religious-based nonprofit institutions, providing services to the poor, to the elderly, or to people who are struggling for whatever reason. We get another third who end up working in business. One of the alums who came back recently works for the S&P, and her focus was on doing research on water regulations across the 50 states in the United States, right? And that the S&P hired her to do research because of her skills that she learned doing research in political science, even though she wasn't an expert when she started on water issues. But the idea is that we help our students to gain the skills needed to pursue careers across a wide variety of positions. We also have, a number of students who work in government. They work for Democratic senators and Republican senators. We tend to have at least 1 or 2 individuals who work for the presidential administrations. Right? One of our students just left a position with Secretary Mnuchin in the Treasury Department right now. So we have, students in, again, law, government, nonprofits, the private sector. There's really, there's too many opportunities for our political science majors, which is a good problem to have. Anyone else? Thanks, Avery.
Hi guys, I thought I would jump in. My name is Grace Sechak. Like Dr. Allison mentioned, I'm a sophomore political science major. I also have a legal studies concentration and a criminal justice minor. So a little handful of things going on there. But I just thought I should share some opinions I have about the political science department. So pretty funny, I actually decided when I decided I was coming to Scranton, I decided to come in and decided. I didn't know if I was going to study chemistry, if I was going to study political science. So 2 different aspects of the world there. But eventually I actually decided to take a few political science classes to start off with Scranton in the World, which was really great. And then I took an intro to politics class as well. But those 2 first classes that you take that freshman year really helped me decide that I wanted to do political science. Oh, Dr. Allison, looks like you have another question there.
What I love most teaching about at Scranton, I think it's, for many of us, one of the most challenging, but one of the most fun, or the greatest things about teaching political science is that what we're talking about changes every day. You never know what you're going to walk into the classroom and talk about that's going on in current events. I think it keeps us on our toes. And as you saw earlier on with the student research interests, what drove me, or what my passion about studying politics is not the same as everybody else. So it's great to learn from students what they're interested in studying. What issues do they find of interest? And then to help them to dig in, right, to learn more about whatever it is that interests them, and hopefully turn that into a successful career.
And I'd just like to add that I think one of the best parts about the political science department is that there's something for absolutely everyone, regardless of your interests. There's so many classes that you can take, like Dr. Allison was saying. The Irish politics class, if you're interested in politics that happen in different countries, is great because we have an Irish politics class and a Latin American politics class that Dr. Allison teaches. So you have different aspects there that you could take different classes, but also if you're looking at law school or anything like that, you can also take those constitutional law classes. I'm actually in con law right now and it's really fun, but we have so many different classes that the department offers, so you could just take a little, put a foot into every different type of area so you can see at the end where you want to be.
Absolutely. One of the questions was, if you're doing an internship with the local government in Jan's area, would you be able to receive credit for that work? There's opportunities for students to do internships here in Scranton, as well as other places throughout the entire country. So we've had students do internships here in Scranton, down in Harrisburg, in Washington, D.C., but they've also done them in their home communities in Long Island, in New York, New Jersey. Those are usually done during the intersession, the winter period, or in the summer. Right? But there are a number of opportunities for students to get political science credit and more elective credit for internship opportunities. Beyond that, we also have we have relationships with the Washington Center and the Washington Internship Institute that allows students to go down to Washington, D.C. to take a course or two and get credit for that, as well as do internships with organizations down in Washington. So you get both course credits and internship credits for a semester down in Washington, D.C. And in the past, we've had students intern with members of Congress, as well as a student who is more interested in Asian politics, who ended up working on a House committee that dealt with oil and gas drilling in the China Sea. So it was an interesting way for students who also wanted to get that experience of being away, but for whatever reason weren't prepared to leave the country, and they've spent a semester down in Washington, D.C. And I think Grace also mentioned this legal studies concentration that she's a part of, and maybe we'll just talk a second about that. And that it's pretty new here at the university where we have this legal studies concentration, which is 6 courses that students need to take, 5 or 6 before they graduate, which gives them an introduction to the field of law that comes from different perspectives, from the political science perspective, criminal justice, maybe philosophy perspective, as well as some of the skills that would be really helpful for our students when they go on to law school, right? So thinking about logic, public speaking, and writing for the law. And it's something that many of our students in political science in particular are really interested in, because they can take courses in our program of constitutional law or judicial politics or women authority and power and apply them to the political science program, as well as a legal studies concentration. And for some students, it just reinforces why they love law and they want to go on to law school. And for others, maybe they're more interested in the content and they're maybe not interested in going to law, but having this exposure and this experience at the undergraduate level has been, really powerful, or a great experience for them.
Yeah, I'll just add that the legal studies concentration is really nice because you can take classes in all different fields of study. So last semester I took a class in criminal justice. This semester I'm taking that con law class. And then next semester I'm going to be taking a business class, so the legality of business. So it's actually pretty neat. But then you also take an interdisciplinary class that kind of incorporates everything together. So it's really nice.
And one of the areas I'd say just, that we're moving in the direction of is really having a strength in state and local politics. We have a lot of interest for our students, and we have a new hire, Dr. Joyanna Hopper, who will be starting here in the fall, who are really knowledgeable about public administration, public policy, environmental politics, but really helping our home communities to improve the day-to-day operations of government, right? I think for many of us, we're often engaged in politics by voting, but beside that, it's mostly in our home communities, our local communities, working on school boards, working with our neighbors. And so we're really focusing on state and local politics right now. So hopefully it will provide some really neat opportunities for students to learn more about public administration and public policy. And it helps here in Scranton because we have so many opportunities for our students to intern with the mayor, with city council, with the school board, with the business, with the Chamber of Commerce, right? All within walking distance of campus. So I don't know if we have one last question or so for Grace or myself. I know we want to give you an opportunity to move on to other sessions today. All right, well, thank you, everyone. As you can see on the screen in front of you, we have a pretty active presence on social media. So if you want to learn a little bit more about what's going on in political science, join on, or you can email me with my name on the bottom, michael.allison@scranton.edu, and I can help to answer any questions you might have and either forward them on to Grace, who might be able to provide a student's perspective, or share them with whoever might really be able to handle your inquiry. So thanks, everyone. Enjoy the weekend, and good luck making the best of a really challenging environment, I think, for all of us right now.